It looks like the UFC is going to be moving on from ESPN at the end of 2025. The exclusive negotiating window ended Tuesday night, and ESPN and UFC have not had the best relationship. UFC has not seen the greatest return on investment with their pay-per-view sales, which leads me to believe someone else is going to be landing the broadcasting deal. This is the structure of their current deal. The UFC signed a 5-year, $1.5 billion contract with ESPN in 2019. This got extended by 2 years, but we can estimate an average of $300 million per year in revenue to the UFC for these broadcasting rights. Today, we'll be looking at the other 4 major sports, their revenue, how much their broadcasting deals are worth, and comparing those numbers to the UFC to figure out the answer to the question, how much will the UFC's next broadcasting deal be worth? On the left of the screen, you see the 4 major US sports alongside the UFC. We will be comparing their 2024 revenue to their TV deal and calculating a ratio to see what their TV deal is worth in respect to their revenue grossed. Let's start off with the big player. We have the NFL, which grossed $23.5 billion in 2024 and has a TV deal of $10.1 billion a year. This gives them a ratio of 2.33. The easiest way that I could explain this to you is that the NFL makes around $2.33 total for every $1 in media rights. Next up, we have the NBA. The NBA had a revenue of $11.3 billion in 2024 with a TV deal that is at $6.9 billion per year. This gives the NBA a ratio of 1.64, which is less than the NFL's 2.33. This means the NBA relies a lot more on their media deal than the NFL does in order to make money. Then we have the MLB, which had a revenue in 2024 of $12.1 billion and a TV deal of $1.7 billion a year. This gives them a ratio of 7.06, which is a lot higher than the other leagues. The MLB has a lot of smaller local broadcasting deals, along with a 162-game season. That means a lot of their money comes from gates and fan attendance. Lastly, we have the NHL, which had a revenue of $6.3 billion in 2024 and a TV deal of $1.2 billion a year. This gives them a ratio of 4.9. Much like the MLB, the NHL has a high ratio. They don't depend on their broadcasting rights in order to make a lot of their revenue. Then we have the UFC, which brought in a revenue in 2024 of $1.4 billion. We already know that the TV deal with ESPN has them making $300 million a year on broadcasting rights, which sits them in a place very similar to the NHL, where they have a ratio of 4.68. For every dollar the UFC makes from their broadcasting rights, they make $4.68 total. The UFC's goal with their next broadcasting deal is to be a lot more like the NFL and the NBA. Get a broadcasting deal that is going to pay you around half of what your annual revenue is. My suggestion to Dana and the UFC is, get a contract that's around $750 million a year. That's a little more than half of what the UFC brought in last year, and would be 2.5 times more than the annual contract they got from ESPN in 2019. This doesn't have to be a long deal either. I think a 3 to 4 year contract would be perfect. If the UFC really believes their product will expand globally over the next few years and that revenues are going to exponentially increase, a shorter deal is going to give them a lot more negotiating power in the future. Now, who would pay for a $750 million a year contract? Rumor has it that Netflix is going to be the top option for the UFC's next go. It makes a lot of sense. They had success with the Tyson-Paul fight and have shown a desire to expand outside of the TV and movie realm by broadcasting an NFL game last year. If they want to make a bigger jump into that space, what would be better than owning the rights to the biggest fighting organization in the world? Someone that I don't think people are talking about enough is Amazon Prime. Prime already owns the rights to one championship and knows what it's like to have a deal with a fighting organization. Amazon is another one of those companies that has deep pockets, and if they want to invest and expand in this space, this would be the perfect time to start a relationship. My personal sleeper pick is Apple TV. They've already dabbled in the MLB by hosting those exclusive Friday night games, and we know that they have the money to give the UFC what they want if it's a deal that makes sense for both parties. There's always the chance that the UFC goes back to ESPN. But when there's a product that a lot of people want, people are going to be bidding for it. So expect the UFC to use one of these 3 players if they move on from ESPN. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments what you think about the UFC's next deal and how much they should ink that deal for. And check us out on Instagram and TikTok, where I post the Barn Burner Gazette every week to highlight the upcoming fights. Like the video and subscribe to see more content in the future. Have a great day.